And welcome back, everyone, to episode 54 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew. Vince cannot join us today, and this is the second straight episode that we have a guest, but it's also the second straight episode that I forgot to film an intro, so this is going to be the makeshift intro again. As I said, Vince cannot join us today, so it's just going to be me and our wonderful guest, Julian. Julian does a ton of stuff in the New York baseball world, Mets and Yankees, some minor league stuff. He runs a podcast, Dugout Station, which is a Yankees podcast. They do everything Yankees. He does stuff with Latino sports. He does stuff with Fannation. He writes for Sports Illustrated. So there's definitely a ton of stuff to talk about. We have some great conversations about the Yankees, and of course, he has some great stories to tell from his times as a reporter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, and now I'm back joined by Julian. So Julian here does a lot of stuff in the baseball world. He's a reporter for Latino sports and Fan Nation. He works on the Yankees podcast, Dugout Station, and is a writer for World Baseball and Sports Illustrated. So it's great to have him here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, anytime. Always like to take people up on these offers because I know it's awesome for to ask people on the pod. So always try to find time. So it's a little extra. So thank you for so get to it.
All right. So first of all, I think the thing that's on a lot of Yankees fans' minds is, of course, we picked up Jazz Chisholm, got off to a strong start, and then we see him slide into home the other day, and it turns out he has a UCL injury. And then yesterday it was reported probably no surgery needed, and he could be back in September. What do you think? Will he be able to be back before the end of the season?
I mean, it's tough to fully say. I want to believe that's true right now. Jazz is playing the optimistic route. Heyman was on it early, and he did have that report out there as well. So for now, it's all good. I don't know if it's going to be something that he's going to aggravate, and it could be an off-season type situation where he tries to gut it out for October. That could be possible as well. The positive is that it's his non-throwing arm. I think that's the best part about that. So you know what? Yeah, let's run him back to September.
And I think the one thing that was interesting is the day of, it was reported that it was quite mild, may potentially not need IL. Next day, it was reported then that he might need surgery of some kind, but then he only gets put on the IL for a sprain then the day after. And now they're optimistic he'll be back in September. So I think there's been a lot of scrutiny around what the severity of the injury really is, but I'm also hopeful that he'll be back by September.
Yeah, it's a very tough thing. We don't actually know. No one actually knows what's really going to happen still. We kind of just got to hope everything goes well and that he does the rest. And when he tries to start doing baseball activities again, everything goes smoothly. But if it does, then he'll be in a good spot. So hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, and we saw then, because of his injury, we got to see Peraza come up, and he already hit a home run today in his first game back in the majors. He had a pretty strong showing out there. But there's a lot of guys in our system right now that really have strong major league potential, and a lot of them didn't get traded at the deadline, which means we still have them in our system ready for whenever. But Peraza's already come up and down last couple of years. So of guys like Pereira, Dominguez, and then you're now stacking on Dominguez with Spencer Jones in Double-A right now. So I just kind of want to know, what do you think the game plan for the future is for the Yankees with some of these guys? Are they going to be traded, or are they going to figure out how to make room for them on the major league roster?
Well, I feel like Peraza's always in limbo. Hopefully he shows well. And tonight was a good start. Boone said he's going to go against lefties a lot. So I think he's someone that could be traded. He always seems to be in the rumors. I know they like Caleb Durbin a lot. He could end up being second next year maybe. And Jordan Vivas will be in the mix. I think all three of those guys will be fighting next year. Probably figured Gleyber Torres is going to go because they're going to want to stack everything towards Soto. With Soto, I think that Jason Dominguez is in the Yankees' long-term plans, even if Juan does return, because Alex Verdugo is a pending free agent, and he hasn't been playing well, so I don't think he's going to be back. And then you slide Dominguez in the left field, hopefully to upgrade that. Should be if Dominguez is what we think he should be. And Spencer Jones, I mean, his name was definitely floated at the deadline. I don't think they were actually going to pull the trigger unless it was like a schoolboy probably or something crazy like that. But I don't think they completely put him off. It's probably because they have Dominguez and they do want to keep Soto and all that. Because like basically you just have to rotate all four of them if Spencer makes it into the DH hole with three outfield spots. But then that means you got to get rid of Stan, who's still under contract. So like Spencer's future is definitely a little bit more murky.
Yeah, and I think for Scooble, there was a lot that we almost had a potentially done deal for a lot of guys at the deadline, but we were talking about did they want to give up Spencer Jones because I think he was going to be included, or him or Dominguez, in a lot of the deals at the deadline that may have ended up not going through. Then they said there were medical concerns with a couple of the guys they were looking at. And I just think that where we're at right now, I think it's too early to see on Spencer Jones whether he's going to be a part of the long-term plan. But I think that they really didn't pull the trigger on a lot of deals at this deadline because they wanted to keep him in there as a potential filling spot in a couple of years.
The thing is with Spencer is like he hasn't been amazing in Double A. Like he's been decent. He has some good stuff, but like the strikeouts are just way too high still. That's like his biggest bugaboo, I would say. Everything else looks pretty good. The power's off the charts. His defense is really good. The way he's run eyes is amazing. But it's like, how's that going to translate at the next level? Is he going to be able to cut down this case? Because like that's really the biggest issue with him, and we'll see how he does. I know he has been playing a little bit better of late. It's going to be interesting to see if he makes it to Triple A. Does he follow that Dominguez path, like a long struggle at Double A, and he finally takes off and goes to Triple A? I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year with the way things are going right now, but maybe when the rosters expand to September, depending how Spencer Jones is doing. For Dominguez this year, I'm not like 100% if he's going to make it up. I hope he does. I think he should, but it's still definitely far from certain because the roster expansion is way smaller than it used to be.
Yeah. And I think for Spencer Jones, another big part of the optimism that the Yankees have for him is the spring that he had. At spring training, he had, I don't even remember the exact amount of home runs he had, but he was raking against a lot of major league talent. And that really, I think, was a reason that they wanted to kind of put him into Double A, see how he performs, maybe even get him up to Triple A at the end of the year if they could figure out how to make room. Because of course, Dominguez is the main center fielder there right now. So I think that it's definitely Spencer Jones is in limbo. If Dominguez comes up, I think that opens up for Spencer Jones to move to Triple A. But as you said, he hasn't necessarily lived up to what he showed in spring, and he hasn't necessarily so far lived up to what he showed in High A.
Yeah, it's growing pains. It's a learning curve. I know he went to college for 3 years, so it's not like he's like uh, or something, or like an international free agent. Like he's a little more polished because like he's in college. So I think they kind of hope to be a little further advanced. Um, his age is escaping me right now. I'm trying to think. If he was 21, got drafted. He's been in the system for like 2 to 3 years. So he's got to be like 23 or 24 right
Yeah,
now.
23 exactly. So yeah.
Okay, there we go. So, I mean, there's still time to see what he has. He's obviously not getting the call this year. Next year, it's like, again, it's solo returns. It's a tight roster still because Trent Grisham's still under contract for next year. I don't know if they'll do something with that. Stan, like I said, want to reiterate on that, but like we'll have to see. I mean, you want the hope is that Spencer Jones gets the September call up to AAA. That's what we'd like to see.
Yeah, I think that for especially with Verdugo, you said earlier, he's struggling. He's had he. I think he likes it in New York, but I don't know if he's necessarily right to return next year. And of course, that opens up another outfield spot, which we were struggling on outfielders, especially left fielders, a couple years ago, and now it feels like we got Soto. We're able to have two superstar outfielders in there at once, and then we need another guy like Dominguez, some young talent out there that can really learn from Judge and Soto, and I think can really be a strong permanent left fielder for us. So as soon as Verdugo, who I think was just filling the gap for this year, potentially gets out in the offseason, I think it opens up a lot for a lot of these young guys.
Yeah, Verdugo always felt like a stopgap to me. I definitely thought it was a little better than the IKF stopgap at shortstop, but I don't even know. I mean, his defense has been good. That's been pretty rough. I know he's not like an amazing hitter, but he's still like performing below his averages of his career. He like maybe he'll get an uptick. There was some interesting stuff that came out about him being allergic to batting gloves and dealing with. But, like, I don't know what's going on, but like something's not right with his hitting. I didn't hear the sack fly tonight, but it's just like we need to see a lot more, and he's running out of time.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the allergic to batting gloves thing because I saw that today, and it's like for the past 3 years he's been having hand troubles, and they're just now figuring out he's allergic to chemicals in batting gloves, which I don't know how that's really affecting anything, but it was just such a interesting story that I came across today, and I was just like, what is going on?
It really came out of left field.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's been a lot of Yankee stories like that in history, if I'm being honest. So he's fitting right in with kind of what's been going on.
Yeah, what else is new, right? Honestly.
Yeah. So another question I got for you about a young guy is when we had Keith McPherson on about a month ago, it was exactly when Rizzo hit the IL again and Ben Rice was called up. And Ben Rice, of course, started off, he had that 3 home run game, batting in 300s. And now I just checked the other day. Like, I was like, oh, Ben Rice is still here. I checked his average has definitely dipped a ton. His defense still fine. He's just not getting as much playing time. But do you think basically what Keith said was Rizzo's done, that's it? Once he hit the IL and now Ben Rice is up here and he's ready to go. Do you agree with that?
I don't know, honestly. I think that Rice is leaving the door open for Rizzo right now. If Rizzo can somehow get himself together by next month, then I would like to see him back. I mean, why not? Let's see. It's going to be it anyway, most likely. He's going to opt out. The Yankees will decline the option to the $6 million buyout or whatever. But, like, he's not going to be back next year. We already know that. So we might as well see what else he has this year if he's going to be ready to go. Ben Rice is not knocking anyone's socks off right now. I know some of the expected numbers look better than what he's actually doing, but like how much time do they have to see if that's actually going to come together like in the next month and a half? It's it for Austin Wells though. Austin Wells was going through some similar stuff earlier in the year and he figured it out. But like Ben Rice kinds of like and the defense is like okay, it's not bad for just learning first base really, like not playing that as much because he's sort of more of a catcher, but I'm not sure. Ben Rice I'm a little bit iffy on right now. And DJ's getting more chances, which I don't really love too much either. So I'd almost rather see Cabrera at first than like Peraza at third. Honestly, like let's get weird.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of created a good segue into some of the other discussions I wanted to have with you. Uh, First of all, I want to talk about Trevino and Wells. You were talking about Wells just randomly skyrocketed into having one of the best OPS in the league for a cleanup hitter. He was looking amazing in that position. They took him out of it today because Trevino came back from injury, which opens up again. Where do you have Trevino, who's an elite defender and a pretty good clutch hitter, and then you have Austin Wells, who as of late is on an absolute tear? How are you supposed to balance that going through the rest of the season?
I need Austin Wells playing at least 5 days a week still. Based on what I've seen from him so far, you gotta let that roll still. Let Trevi catch Cole. Let him play against a few lefties here and there, but I need Wells to be the majority catcher still. I think he's earned that right with what he's hit. I think he's been a godsend at the fourth spot because when Giancarlo was down, that fourth spot was like a black hole. And like JD Davis playing there a few times, we were going back to the days of like Frenchie and like Bowers and Calhoun, like from I was like starting to think of that stuff again. I thought that was so low, but we still didn't. But so Wells was like the same four spot for a while. And I was really liking that. I understand why they put Stan in the four against lefty because he just beats lefty. So I'm fine with that. But like, I want Wells hitting cleanup in October against right-handed. Let's do it.
Yeah, and for Austin Wells, I think one of the main drawbacks is one, Jose Trevino is a former platinum glover and he's just an elite defender. And the other, and I guess the extra drawback to that is I don't think Austin Wells was actually a natural catcher. I think when he was starting to really get into baseball when he was younger, he wasn't actually a catcher. So now we're seeing, of course, his defense now has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. I watched him in Somerset a lot. There's some iffy defense going on when he was in the minors. But now he's come up. He threw a guy out the other day. He was looking really good. So I think that he's definitely caught up on that standpoint. But I'd still rather have Trevino behind the dish just because he's just been amazing, especially with our iffy pitching sometimes.
I understand that from a defensive standpoint, but the only problem is that Trevi is like almost worse at throwing runners out than Wells at this point. Like steal nine on him. Wells' big weakness now, and I think you would know this too, going back there, has always been the throw arm. He doesn't really have the strongest arm. I mean, he does everything else pretty well. He's been really good at framing. His blocking has gotten tremendously better. We definitely saw some work in progress down there, all pay off. But I've spoken to him. The guy's worked his tail off to catch. He's always wanted to catch since the Yankees drafted him. It's been all about catching for him. I know a bunch of people have said first left field, like they were thinking he could be like a Kyle Schwarber type deal when he came into the league. But like, I think he's gonna stick at catching. The only thing is like, if you're gonna play Trevi, I wouldn't hate having Wells DH or even put on a first baseman sometimes to get both of them together. I don't even know if they floated that idea, but like, it might be worth doing, especially with how bad the first base situation is right now.
Yeah, of course. But then the issue with that is you're then taking away a DH spot from Giancarlo, who, of course, we do not want him in the field right now, especially with the outfielders we have on our roster. So, and I think for him, a big part of him staying healthy is Giancarlo needs to keep getting quality reps day after day in order for him to stay at a
Yeah,
constant pace.
the thing with Stan that's frustrating because like he's gonna clog his DH spot. They've like done a little outfield with him, not this year, I don't think, or maybe once, I don't even know, but like maybe the one short anyway. But like he's sometimes I thought like playing the field kind of helped him stay more healthy, keep him loose, and he still gets hurt even when he's DHs. So like it's just like a frustrating thing. That's the thing with G. It's like he's gonna get injured. He's locked in your DH. You're paying him a lot of money. You'll see good things at times. You'll see really bad things at times. So like I don't know. I'm really curious to see what they're gonna do with him this offseason. If they just continue to keep it rolling, or if they're gonna try to do something to get Jones in there, like we were saying before. I mean, I like Stanton, but the contract is definitely rough based on everything that's happened.
Yeah, and I think that clogging up that DH spot, especially for a team like the Yankees with so much depth of potentially good hitters that we could fill that DH spot with, even going down to the minors. I think with Stanton, we kind of got stuck with this from the beginning. Of course, he was an amazing defender, but he was never an Aaron Judge level defender in the outfield. So as soon as we got him, we're kind of like, well, what do we do with him really? And the DH spot was the only logical spot for him on the team, and it still is to this day, especially if we want to keep getting some of the benefits of his bat. So if you have two elite catchers, Austin Wells, Jose Trevino, that automatically removes them from playing games together. And then anyone like DJ LeMahieu, if he wants to get some reps in there, but we have the infield full of Jazz back, or Oswaldo Cabrera, especially, who I want to get to in a second, needs more reps. So I don't know. It's kind of just an unfortunate situation we're in.
Well, I've been done with DJ for a minute. I mean, I know he's still under the contract too. His contract doesn't look good either. He's had a few good moments, very few. His batting's been very bad. He's basically a third or first baseman now. He's not going to play second anymore. Probably better, maybe even first at this rate. But like, DJ's tough because like he looked like the contract was going to age well because that type of skill set was something we thought would age a lot better. But he's just not like producing that good contact like he used to. Just not hitting the balls hard. It's too much on the ground still. Like it's like DJ should not be playing in October if they want to win it, in my opinion. Like he should, maybe like in occasions, but you can't have him starting in October. I don't think they need to figure something out with that.
Yeah, and we had him basically locked down in that contract to be our leadoff guy for years to come. And as soon as he gets injured, as soon as he stops producing like he did, that leadoff spot is in jeopardy and has been in jeopardy for the past 2 to 3 years. I mean, of course, last year we had some interesting guys to fill some holes in the lineup, and then this year we're rotating between Volpe, who then went cold and he couldn't be our leadoff. Then we went to Verdugo, who shouldn't be a leadoff hitter
No,
by any stretch of the imagination. And then,
more
yeah.
about good on that. I mean, Gleyber Torres is not the perfect leadoff hitter, but if you need to choose between the two, I'd rather see Torres get the shot, honestly. I mean, I thought it was going to be Jazz Chisholm, but they didn't want to do that. That's what I would have done. I know his on base isn't the best, but, like, he has everything else you would like in the top spot. But, they didn't want to go that route. So, and Volpe, like, it's too much like hot and cold. And I'm a big AV fan. Sure you are as well after watching him down there. Really good player, but the bat needs to be way more consistent. And they tried moving him up, didn't work out. It worked for a little while. So I think they got to just leave him at the bottom now, unfortunately, because like you don't really want to keep juggling him at this rate. The perfect leadoff hitter, if he's right, and they bring him up, is Jason Dominguez. That's who you want to lead off. If everything goes well, Dominguez should lead off next season.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I loved Volpe last year, although his average wasn't great at the 9 hole, because especially now, even with the even bigger threats we have at the top of the order, him at the 9 hole is perfect because number one, he gets on, he has good speed, so you bring up our leadoff guy, who first of all should always be getting on. So Volpe's on base, and our leadoff guy should be getting on. Then that maybe gets two guys in scoring position. So I really liked him in that position, but I think that he fits better towards the middle to the end of the order where he's kind of coming behind some of the guys who can really clear the bases, and then he's trying to kind of restart the rally, but there's not too much of a problem if he doesn't really get anything going.
Yeah, that's what we need right now. Unfortunately, you're 100% right. He hasn't taken enough pitches to be in the leadoff spot. Got to get that walk rate up and improve the on base. And like, I mean, he does have a lot of good qualities we would want too with the speed and the steals. The other thing is like he's not going to want to steal bases and take the bat at Judge and Soto's hand at the top. That's why it also might be better to get him at the bottom so he can run more and get some more bases. So hopefully, like I think there is a chance he could be the leadoff hitter in the future, but that time's not right now.
Yeah, and I think you were right with Jazz. I saw Jazz Chisholm gets traded to the Yankees. I'm like, perfect. That fills a lot of holes. That fills our third base hole. We get him in the top of the order. Keep bringing that Jazz Soto Judge just three in a row going. But I think that so far, honestly, his power has been more valuable where he is in the lineup. And I don't think we were expecting to see that power. And I think then Boone made the right decision putting him there because in the leadoff spot, that's not as valuable. But now we're seeing him hit tanks. He's getting good reps, getting on base a lot. And then he gets injured, which doesn't help and kind of creates another gap again. But I think him at that leadoff spot actually was the right choice not to put him there.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, he has career highs in home runs right now, RBI and stolen bases. I'm pretty sure. So like, yeah. I know. I thought there'd be a nice uptick with home runs because of the short. The crazy thing is, most of his bombs on the road, they weren't even at Yankee.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying too hard to hit out of Yankee Stadium. Doing that first series, pulls up with the 314. A few he wants to impress the home fans. I get it. It happens. I was like, oh. On the road, he was going off. So I think once he figures that porch out and doesn't overswing, then he ends up hitting like maybe 25 a year or something. Maybe 30 if things go well. He's another guy who's healthy, always got to watch because he can't seem to go through a full season either, which, I mean, the injury that happened was kind of freakish and, like, I guess you can't really say much, but, like, you just want Jazz to play like 140 going forward. Hopefully, that'd be good. But yeah, I definitely agreed. I thought Chisholm was lead off, but I think having him in that 5 to 7 range is like pretty polling.
Yeah. And we have cardiac clay on our team, but so far from the first week of watching Jazz Chisholm, first of all, one of those first games where he gets like hit in the jaw or whatever and then was down and then immediately stole base after, I just like, that was such a swing of emotions for me. Just watching him go down, have the trainers come out and then go steal a base. That was something. And then, of course, he had a couple at bats that scared me a bit, and it was just I could not watch some of his at bats and some of the plays that he made. But of course, somehow ended up fine until he makes a routine slide into home, and then that somehow when it goes downhill. So
yeah, it's like all these Yankee injuries, all these guys that get traded and get hurt. It's just like nonsense. That like I don't know what to do about that. I think his third base play has been really good for a guy that hasn't really played third base. Recently a couple things kind of popped up. They're like a normal third baseman doesn't do those things probably, but like, still learning on the fly. I mean, it's kind of tough. You're putting him in a big spot, learning position. I think you handled about as well as you could. So I want to give him credit for that. Obviously, there was never going to be 100% perfect. So I think that like he's such a big part of this team, and like when having him in for the future better these next couple of years.
Yeah, and someone else you mentioned, of course, Oswaldo Cabrera. I love Oswaldo Cabrera. He is one of my favorite players on the team. I was freaking out when he got called up a couple of years back because I watched him in that first year of Somerset Patriots baseball being the Double A team. He was the nicest guy. He could play a bunch of positions. He was hitting. He gets called up, gets good playing time because we have a lot of injuries, of course, gets transitioned to right field, to left field. I mean, I was there last game of the season last year during that rain out when he just jumped basically into the right field stands to catch a ball, and everyone was just freaking out. And then, of course, there's all the times that he's just getting clutch hits and stuff. And this year, off to a tear beginning of the season, getting constant playing time. And then he stops getting constant playing time. He starts to slump a bit. And now every time I keep seeing him come back into the order, he's looking better and better every time, but he's still not getting reps out there. And I just don't know how he is going to.
Yeah, it's like Oswaldo's like he's like a guy you can't kill. Just like when you think he's not, like when you think he doesn't have it figured out, he'll get it going. Like you're like, oh, this guy can't really hit in the major leagues. Then he'll hit a home run. You're like, oh, okay, he can do it. We know his defense is pretty good wherever you put him. But he's in the outfield that first year was incredible. Even though we all know he's more of an infielder, him in there more because all the outfielders they have. Also, I would like to see over DJ LeMahieu. I'll tell you that much. I'd like to see him play over. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. I don't think the phone costs DJ at this point. It's not like how much you play him or don't play him, but I know they want to get something out of all that salary. But like, Waldo deserves his reps. I want to see Peraza get his reps now too. So like, yeah, they made it a little bit tougher. Like without Jazz, Waldo will definitely get some looks. He played really well the last game too, and they still sat him because they wanted to give Peraza that look, but like, working out. But um, likes his Waldo as well. Like his attitude, his energy, like his people interactions have been good. I've met him a couple times as well. He always does these events, always giving back to the fans. He's the guy that gets it, and that's important. It's like some of the Yankees are a little bit corporate, but
Yeah, and I think the thing that everyone always says about Oswaldo, and I personally believe about Oswaldo, is he is the Yankee. He loves being a Yankee. He wants to be a Yankee. He loves wearing the pinstripes, and that's different than some of the other guys on this team. He understands what it means to wear the pinstripes, and I think that he shows that perfectly with how he plays, how he interacts with fans, and I think that he is just someone that I love having on the team. I'm sure he's a great clubhouse presence, and yeah, I just wish he'd get more playing time.
yeah, me too, me too. I really do, but we'll have to see how that looks.
Yeah, but I have a question about another former Yankees third baseman. We played the Tigers today. Gio Urshela was just released by the Tigers right when we have a third baseman injury going on. I love Gio Urshela. I think a lot of Yankees fans love Gio Urshela. He struggled since we got rid of him. Is he even an option that Cashman might be considering?
Well, I don't know now because let's see what Peraza could do. I mean, Peraza just hit a bomb. I think he deserves a look. I don't. I would have said if there was going to be a guy to come in, I thought it would be Amed Rosario maybe, but like I don't think the Yankees would have the first waiver claim on him because they had interest in the off season. I've definitely thought about bringing Gio back a couple of times as well, but like I don't know if it's really suitable right now with what they have going on. I mean, yeah, because like if they wanted to cut DJ maybe, but that's not going to happen. And like Urshela's hitting isn't even that much better than LeMahieu, so like that's not the move you make if you're going to end up cutting DJ. So like, um, yeah, it's interesting. We'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, and I mean, I always remember watching Gio Urshela dive into a dugout to
Mm-hmm.
catch a fly ball, and then I was there for that game, and everyone's just
I
like,
was
"What
too.
what
It's so funny.
what just happened?" And of course that game ends with the ground out walk off to send us to the postseason, that was a whole nother thing. But watching Gio Urshela just literally leap and jump into the away dugout was just crazy, and that's always like a Gio Urshela moment I remember. But watching him come up during that time of what like Edwin Encarnacion. He was there during that team, and just watching. The Gio Urshela era was an insane time for the Yankees.
It really was. You had a lot of things going on. That was like the next man up here in 2019. Like that was some good vibes. They couldn't finish the job. 22 like it was a really frustrating year because like they were so back and forth that year, and they were so like inconsistent. And they go down to Boston and they lose right away. It was like felt like they didn't even make the playoffs. Like that was such a frustrating season, honestly. But Gio's definitely had some good Yankees moments. He definitely came up basically out of nowhere, so I'm always going to be happy that he had that time with the Yankees. But I'm not sure how much he has left right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I kind of just want to end off the the Yankees part of this real quick. Aaron Judge, our captain, our pride and joy, the quintessential Yankee. So he hit his 300th home run. He's the fastest player to ever do that. And he's broken records. He's done all that stuff. And something my grandfather, lifelong Yankees fan, will always ask me is, when is Aaron Judge a first ballot Hall of Famer? What more does he need to accomplish in his career to do that? And he has years left. He could do what, basically, we don't even know what he's going to do with the rest of his career. He's getting older, though. When do you see, or what do you think he needs to accomplish to be a Hall of Famer?
I think he's pretty damn close, honestly. Like, yeah, even with the 300 home runs, I mean, even though he's not at the Magic 5 yet, he's won an MVP. He has the clean home run record, however you want to specify that. He has the American League record. He's going to win another MVP. He is going to end up hitting 50 plus this year at least. I don't think he'll get his 60 again because they're going to walk him too much. I don't think it's going to end up happening unless he just goes on an absolute tear. But like, they're going to start being really careful, especially when we play these teams in September. They're still playing for stuff right now. We're playing the bottom part of our schedule. So like, maybe they'll pitch him a little bit more. But he's at 44 right now. He had 62. He had 18 more. What is it, like 40 something games at this point? I mean, it's possible. He's done it before. I won't completely rule it out, but like, he's gonna. But I'm gonna say no for now. I think if he ends up with like even 400 home runs, I might do it. Honestly, he'll get his 5, I think. But like, once he hits the 4, you're gonna see 2 MVPs. I don't have like the average in RBIs in front of me, but I know it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And hits is not going to be amazing because he walks a lot and he's had some injuries, so he's not going to really have like an eye-popping hits number. But everything else speaks for itself.
Yeah, I kind of dove into his stats the other day when he hit 300. He's pretty close to Soto in terms of hits. Of course, Soto is a higher average player like throughout the first couple years of his career. But for Judge, I mean, first of all, the thing I want to say is, of course, this is a what if thing. What if in April Aaron Judge didn't slump for the entire first month of the season? Because I'm just looking at how his season already this year is insane. What if that didn't happen? And of course, there's nothing that can be changed now because he's still going off and he's the best player in the league right now. But if he just broke right out into the season like he is performing right now, this would be the best season in baseball history if it isn't already one of the best.
Yeah, I thought about that as well. Because you look at all the stat bars with him, it's like since April, whatever. It's always like, look at him during this stretch. I was like, I almost forget like his like bad April because of how good the numbers look now. Like, I think it's a distant memory. And he's been very healthy this year, which has been great as well. So, yeah, if he didn't have that stretch, he's definitely hitting 60 again, no questions asked.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, Aaron Judge is such a important piece of the Yankees. And I mean, of course, I'm sure, going back a bit, Aaron Judge, we saw he had the amazing season, and then Arson Judge goes to the Giants, whatever. That was a whole nother thing. I mean, I just kind of want to know, as a Yankees fan, as a reporter, what was that whole saga like for you? Just
Well, I
kind of
was
cover.
actually at the winter meetings with my podcast co-host Sandy, and we were going nuts at the time. She does a lot of work with me with Dugout Station and really tremendous stuff. So like, couldn't do it without her. So like, she was there with me, We were going nuts. She reads the tweet to me on a live stream. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Because she's like, Arson Judge going to the Giants for Heyman. I was like, what? And then first of all, I'm like, that's not the right name. And then I was like, I thought it was a little bit fishy. I wasn't fully buying it, but like a lot of people were freaking out because Heyman's definitely jumped the gun before and been wrong. It's not his first time, won't be his last time, but he does get a lot of things right, so I'll give him credit. And he has a really good connection with Scott Boras. So, like, if it's a Boras client and he's breaking the news, he's probably right. So, that's a little tidbit with Johnny Boy. But, that was an adventure for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was 2 years younger, going to sleep early that night. I see that, all the stuff, and I'm just like freaking out. I go to bed, hope for the best. I'm like, oh, Aaron Judge isn't Yankee anymore. I wake up the next morning. I had left my radio on because I was listening to, I think, Keith that night. And I left my radio on. I wake up in the morning, uh, and they're talking about Aaron Judge is a Yankee because I think deal happened at 6 a.m. Eastern. They're like, Aaron Judge is a
It
Yankee.
was early out there. It was really early out
Yeah.
there. We were up early on it. Like, we were like, whoa, okay, let's get going. Happy start. We were like, happy start to our day. So, like, it's just incredible. Like that whole thing is always gonna be like in my memory bank. Again, it's
Yeah.
unforgettable.
Yeah. And then I think what I did next was I started watching a Keith McPherson live stream because he was like live tweeting the whole thing and freaking out because of course he's a diehard Yankees fan. So I started watching that, and the whole time I was just like, what happened? And then there's the whole thing where Hal was on a yacht in Italy or something, and then that was a whole nother thing,
Mm,
and then
yeah,
so it was certainly a interesting turn of events for me, and I'm sure for you being there and going through this live was just a
yeah.
whole nother
Like
thing.
there was rumors he was coming to San Diego. We were trying to see if he was gonna come. But like I don't. I think he may have done it privately and snuck in. I think he did end up going there, but like no one was gonna see him. They probably just put him in through like a side or back entrance with a bunch of security and just like rushed him up to wherever he needed to go. They probably did it really stealth, like at an odd time in the day, so like no one would notice it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a whole thing. I feel like the Yankees down to the wires is certainly something we pride ourselves in. So that was definitely a trip, and I'm sure neither of us will ever forget that. So.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
But I have another question. This time, unfortunately, kind of to end this off, I have two quick questions about the Mets because you cover New York baseball, and I feel like
Yeah,
I need
let's
to
do
talk
it.
about some of that. So, the Mets, their pride and joy, Pete Alonso. There were rumors, there were deadline rumors, there's already re-signing rumors or where he could go potentially next year. Of course, the Giants are up there, the Yankees are up there, whoever could potentially want a good first baseman like that. I just want your flat out opinion. What is Pete Alonso's future?
I think he's gone. I think he's playing himself out of New York. I think he's going to ask for a number higher than they want to give. I don't think he's produced this year at all, like to his standard. I know he's flexing, saying I'm still hitting 40 home runs. I'm an all-star. Well, first of all, the all-star was fake because you only
Yeah,
got in there the home run derby. So let's relax with that. And you may not even hit 40 this year because, like, you're not. I don't think he's on pace for that. But like, he's still a good player. He's a flawed player. His defense is never going to be amazing. He's could end up aging as a DH. The Mets need a lot of things. I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to completely close the door if he's willing to take like a friendly deal and come down off his number. But like, he's definitely going to get way less than he expected. And to me, I've always seen him either with the Cubs or the Brewers if he leaves the Mets. I think those are the two spots.
I really like the Cubs. If I'm being honest, I have a couple friends who are
They
Cubs fans,
they
and
have they've there's been a lot of smoke with Cubs. Cubs are definitely in play for him, and
yeah,
and Brewers too. I think either one, honestly.
yeah. The Brewers are an interesting pick too. I feel like the Brewers are one of the most just the Brewers are the team in the MLB that's kind of on the side. They have Christian Yelich, who is out for the season now, so that's just they had that a couple years ago, and everyone's like, "Where? What happened here?" And then you've just all these random players, and then a superstar will go there, and then a superstar will get traded away from there. It's a whole thing.
hmm
the Brewers are just that team in the MLB that are always kind of off to the side. They'll maybe in second or third place, but I think having Pete Alonso would definitely change a lot of things for the Brewers, especially at the point they're at right now. But the Cubs, I really, really would want to see him go to the Cubs. I would just love to watch him play there.
Cubs might be a more natural fit because Brewers did just get Rhys Hoskins. Like, they basically have to alternate Rhys and Pete at first and DH if they were going to go that route. The Cubs kind of have an opening at first base, so that one does kind of make some sense. I see what you're going for there, and they've definitely had interest in him, so I wouldn't rule that out at all. The Cubs can definitely spend some money too, opposed to the Brewers. The Cubs definitely have more payroll muscle, which is part of the reason why I think Craig Counsell decides to hop over there. But it's kind of funny because the Brewers are schooling them right now, even with like a lesser team thought. Yeah, the Brewers are like such a weird team. Like, they're never going to win a World Series, but they're going to be a pain. They'll make the playoffs and they'll probably be done in the first rounds or like maybe make the NLCS, but like they're never good enough to go all the way because they don't have enough. Like, they always run out when they need something. Like, it's either like a starting pitcher short, not enough bats. Like, they never have it fully together. Like, it looks good right now, but like, do we really think they're gonna beat the Dodgers or the Phillies in this series? Probably not, honestly. So like, it's gonna be rinse and repeat with the Brewers. Although I have to say, I'm very surprised with what they did this year. Like, they should definitely be commended for making the playoffs with trading Corbin, like losing Devin Williams for a while, Yelich down for now, and also Woodruff. He used to be a big part of their team. They don't have him at all this year. And they're somehow filling in the rotation with guys who don't even know. Like, Aaron Savali's somehow pitching well for them. I have no idea how, but like, it's that's like that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean that. Well, okay. Back to the Cubs for a second before I go back to the Brewers. I think for Pete Alonso, he likes the big city. He likes the biggest stage he can get, and that's
Yeah,
for him going to be Mets, Yankees, or playing in Chicago. So
yeah, that's fair because if you're gonna compare Chicago to Milwaukee city wise, there is no comparison. So like, that's something that I could agree with as well. He does kind of seem to feed off that big market energy guy. Yankees, I just don't see it because of like I think their payroll is going to be very stingy with Juan Soto, like making sure to get him back. But you never know. We do need a first baseman.
yeah, actually, the one thing I wanted to go back to about the Yankees payroll is I saw a tweet from someone a couple of days ago, and it was like um, the re-signing Clay Holmes could potentially get in the way of finding a long-term deal with Juan Soto, and some replied something like, buying a Honda Civic could potentially get in the way of me buying a Rolls Royce. So it's like, I I don't even know, because of course, all right, Cardiac Clay, he has a reputation going on. He's good. He's a good part of our bullpen. Juan Soto, though, like this is exactly what the tweet is saying. Why would we not just give up anything we can for Juan Soto? And I think we find a way to fill a hole in the bullpen.
Yeah, the Yankees know how to maneuver a bullpen, although this year has been more challenging than most, unfortunately. I don't want Clay Holmes closing anymore at all anyway, so like I'll feel better when someone new is closing next year, even if it's closer by committee. Like I feel like Clay's better like in the eighth inning, like how it kinda used to be. It's just he is a good pitcher though, but like he's just not like consistent enough to close ball games really. So like I don't know who it's gonna be next year. I really don't, but they'll figure that out. I really think that everyone besides Soto is probably gone. I think that's what's going to end up happening, and then like they'll try to plug the holes with minor league players, or they'll try to get some guys on lesser deals that'll keep them under that number. Because we know Hal doesn't like to be over too many years in a row. He's not going to want to go over 300 again, so he's going to have to cut corners, and that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and I was upset with a lot of the bullpen additions made at the deadline. Of course, De Los Santos, that was a whole roller coaster thing. Because first of all, I love Brandon Lockridge, and he's who got sent to the Padres for him, and that I was not like very happy about that. And then he gets released the next day or the next week or whatever. Didn't have a good showing. The guy I really like, Cousins. I think Cousins is going to be someone that can potentially be a long-term guy in our bullpen. He can either be a setup guy or even a good closer. He got his first save the other day. That was pretty cool. So I really like seeing him out there. And of course, we have guys who we haven't seen in years, like F. Ross potentially coming back soon and stuff. So um, I think our bullpen is going to be okay. It's never going to be amazing like it was a couple of years ago.
No.
But I think that it should be fairly okay without Clay Holmes.
Yeah, Mark Leiter Jr., I definitely miss Neely a little bit. He was really good. Leiter Jr., I think, can turn it around. De Los Santos was like a classic, like something the analytic team tries to take a guy that's not good from another team, see if he works here. Complete abomination X, and they lost Locke for nothing. But, I mean, Locke was never going to make it with the Yankees just because they have too many outfielders. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be in San Diego, but might be a better opportunity for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, again, it's just no, we'll never. I don't think the Yankees are ever going to be listed as having a top 3 farm system. We never are. I always check. I watch these guys day in and day out. I go to the Patriots as much as I can. I watch these guys. They look really good out there, but I never see them ranked very highly just because we're not getting top draft picks and stuff like that. But I think just seeing these guys and the depth that we potentially have in the minor leagues, it makes me really optimistic for the future we could have. But then again, we're already seeing superstars like Jason Dominguez getting backed up. So how are guys like Brandon Lockridge, JC Escarra, those guys can get chances to come up? So
Yeah, I really like JC as well. I'm gonna go see him tomorrow at Scranton actually, and I'm gonna do some stuff over there. But yeah, and he can also do other positions besides catch. So maybe there'll be a window for him at some point. I don't know what's gonna happen in the off season, but yeah, a lot of guys are stuck. Like you look at Trey Sweeney, he wasn't gonna make it with the Yankees. Now he's with the Tigers. So like that's pretty crazy. And there's like the Yankees do have a lot of depth in certain areas, but like you said, it's not like elite. Like it's never gonna be like a top 3 to 5 farm. I felt like they were close. I thought they were like top 10 potential before the deadline, maybe like even last year before they did some stuff and some things happened. I thought they were in a good spot. Now it's kind of like we're gonna have to rebuild some stuff. Like it's definitely very how do I say this? It's very Jekyll and Hyde. I feel like in certain areas,
yeah,
like you have guys that are like have high ceilings, but they're in A ball, or they're playing in Tampa or Hudson. Like they're so far away. Like the only guy that's right there is Jason Dominguez that we know can do something right now. Honestly, Chase Hampton would have been pushing at the door, but unfortunately he got banged up this year. So like that was tough. Um, Will Warren's been decent given the opportunities. Definitely want to see more from him. Clayton Beeter, losing him was tough. He would have made some starts probably. But like the top end pitching guys, like the LaGranges, the Lalanes, like they're so far away. I think they're both really good, but they're in Tampa right now. And then Selvage going down for the year. We got to see how these draft guys look. Like a lot of stuff's really not that close, unfortunately.
yeah, and I think that the Yankees on the pitching side, especially when it comes to prospects, we had Volpe, we had Dominguez, we had guys like that. Our pitching, I think some of the prospects came out of nowhere. Will Warren, I watched him as a completely unranked, unknown prospect his first couple of years in Somerset. By year 2, he's already getting up there on the Yankees ranks, and then by year 3, he's a top 10 Yankees prospect. And I think watching that transition, and again, it's just these guys in Somerset. I just love watching these guys develop. Boyle, Sean, who was there for a bit, and Selvage, of course, all these guys. I loved watching them there because they're developing, I think, really out of nothing. Who knew Will Warren like 4 years ago? So,
Exactly, yeah, and the same thing with Boyle too. He was ranked on the prospect list before he had his injuries. He made it. He got the ranking. So I want to see him continue to fight his way back. Maybe he's an option next year. Or he's going to be a minor league free agent. So hopefully the Yankees keep him. We'll see what they want to do with that. He's been very low key, going under the radar. Last year he was banged up, not his best season, but he showed a lot the year before that he was pretty good, and then the year before that was like starting to build it. So like, I want to see what happens with him, and yeah, I think you made some good points with the system.
yeah, and we have so many long tenured guys. It's insane. Of course, you got guys like Max Burt, who's been going between Double A and Triple A. He's been here forever. I don't even know how long he's been in our system. I'm trying to think of some other. There's like some pretty old guys in our system right now who I don't know
Yeah,
who have
that's
played.
the thing. Like Keith Max Burst's definitely up there. There's a few guys that you kind of feel for. You're like, are they ever gonna get out? Like their age is kind of getting to the wrong side, and like it's just not looking great for them. Like some guys are kind of trapped because like positional depth, or they just don't have like high enough ceilings to go up. Like it's tough for some of them for sure because most of them, as you know, they don't end up making it.
Yeah, and I think for like some of these guys, I love watching them down there. They love to play in the Yankees organization. It's an honor for them to be there, and it's just amazing to watch them play day in and day out, fight to get up there. And I think that honestly, of course, I'm closer to the Double A side of things. But I think when I'm watching Double A compared to our Triple A play, I see a higher level really going on there. We had Ben Cowles who was here and then got traded at the deadline, I think, as part of the lighter trade, and then you
Another good
again.
one.
Yeah, and then Volpe was there a couple years ago. He was there, practically skipped over AAA and then went up. Same
Yeah.
for Dominguez. He spent a lot of time in AA, kind of skipped over a good amount of AAA and went straight up. So I think looking at where these prospects are developing in AA has been really cool, and especially it being close to home for me has just been just amazing to watch some of these guys.
I used to feel the same way about the Patriots compared to AAA, but this year I actually feel differently. I feel like AAA actually has it figured out. Like they're fighting for the playoffs for the first time in a while. AA's been a little bit rough. Like a lot of injuries, like no consistency really. Like Spencer was kind of their best player, but wasn't really doing it. They lose Augustine Ramirez, Ben Rice were there, but then they left, and once they left, it was really hard to replace them. Although Rafa's doing pretty good right now, and they lost Rumfield too. Like it's been a lot of movement with Somerset. They didn't get Hampton at all this year. It's really hurt their pitching staff. Danny Watson, who I still believe in, is having a really rough season. He's been banged up a lot. I just don't think he fully has it. Like he's just not himself this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have my Eastern League replica championship ring here. We had that one amazing season. All those guys were there. It was just like it was amazing to watch. Unfortunately, I was on a school trip during that final game, and that was also during like the Judge saga. So that was a whole thing. But, I think that just watching, I love the Yankees farm system as much as I love the Yankees. I love watching these guys. It's amazing. I'll just keep saying it over and over again. I have high hope for these guys, and I can't wait to see where they go.
Yeah, me too, bro. And like, it's definitely going to be cool to see. I know you have one more Mets question though. So like, what was that last Mets one you had? I want to make sure I get you on.
Yeah, no problem. My last Mets one, just kind of another point blank question, and we asked this to our guest last week, who's the Mets Stadium host. The Braves, of course, have been a very familiar foe of the Mets in the standings over the last couple of years. It's been a fight between that for first or second or third. This year, it's between second and third. Do you think the Mets have what it takes to just finish ahead of the Braves when the season ends?
It's so tough, man. Like, if you asked me this a week or two ago, I probably would have said yeah. But
Yeah,
right now, I'm not like I can't go all in with the Mets because like I know the Braves are very injured, but like they always find a way somehow. And the Braves, I still think, have a more talented roster than the Mets when it's all said and done, even with the injuries they have right now. You'll take look at Chris Sale, like who the Mets have that stacks up with Chris Sale. Like they don't have anyone like that, and he's found it this year. Max Fried hasn't exactly been great, but again, who do the Mets have that's better than Max Fried? And the lineups actually might be close because the Braves have a lot of injuries, and the Mets lineup is actually very good. But the Mets bullpen, as we know, is still a mess, even with the acquisitions. Like the Braves bullpen, I don't think is lights out, but it's probably a little bit better. So, like, I'm gonna have to say Braves. I think box them out.
yeah. I would say again the injury's been crazy for the Braves, but they're still fighting there. And of course, there was a very rough Mets last series against the Athletics. Blackburn, who they picked up playing against former team, that was not a great outing. Then they had one blowout win, like 9-1. Then it just didn't end up looking good because the Braves were able to kind of leapfrog them back into second place. So I think it's definitely going to be down to the wire. when it comes down to it at the end of the season. But I think they're two very interesting teams, to say the least, especially with the season the Mets have had and the injuries that the Braves had. So,
Yeah.
Gonna be right down to the wire. But thank you so much for joining me and giving all this time. It was great talking Yankees and Mets with you. I had a lot of fun, and you're definitely very knowledgeable in all the stuff we talked about. So I thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll share it when you put it out or whatever. I really appreciate it. I always want to give back because like I said, I've been in the chair. Like, I'm still trying to get some guests sometimes. But it's tough. Like, I appreciate the hustle and the grind, and I'm also tell you this: I think you're putting yourself in a really good position at your age. I definitely wasn't doing the stuff you were doing, and I think you should take full advantage of all the opportunities you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trying to, and this is the podcast so far, and it's been an amazing thing, and having guests like you has been amazing. So thank you so much again.